everyone. Good evening. Like Jill said, my name is Daria Silvestro, and I'm a manager of teacher leadership development, which is just a really fancy way of me saying that I have the best job in Teach for America because I spend all of my days observing, coaching, and supporting the wonderful core members, or some of the wonderful core members that you've gotten to meet tonight. And one of those teachers, who I'm especially proud to work with, is Peter Weiss. Peter's a third grade teacher at Solomon Elementary School, located on Schofield Barracks, the same barracks where I know some of you have spent your lives as military children. And tonight, Peter is here to share his story, and he brings with him two very special guests. His student, Lily, has impressed me with her patience, kindness, and intellect from the very first day that I walked into Peter's classroom, and her mother, Tina, who has managed to support Lily's education at every turn, despite her husband's year-long deployment. Peter, Tina, and Lily represent the amazing things that can happen when teachers and parents partner together to help students meet their goals. So I'd love to introduce Peter Weiss, Tina, and Lily. Come on up.
Oh my God. Good evening, everyone. My name is Peter Weiss, and I'm so unbelievably thrilled to be standing next to my student, Lily, and her mom, Tina. Together, the three of us have had a really remarkable year together. I remember my first day that I met you, Lily, not just because I was so intensely nervous to meet my class and you, but because I remember there was a new group of tanks on base that morning, and I remember waiting at an intersection for like 10 minutes for this caravan to pass by. And I remember seeing these tanks with these giant armored behemoths with flashing student driver signs, and it blew my mind, and it reminded me that it was Teach in just a totally exceptional place. That day I also hoped would be the beginning of a better year with Teach for America. Last year, with the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan still going on, my classroom was highly unstable. I lost and gained over half of my students due to deployments and the arrival of new families. These students that came into my classroom were sometimes out of a class for weeks or even months at a time, creating huge gaps in their learning. And this is just one of the many challenges that kids might face growing up in a military community. But this year I had tremendous hope. With the war in Iraq over, I thought that I would have the opportunity to create one classroom and foster its growth from start to finish. I knew that if I was going to be successful, I would have to leverage the support of my students' parents. But this too would be difficult because I knew that most of them have a parent serving abroad in Afghanistan, but I was going to try. So at the end of my first week of school, I invited all of my students' parents into the classroom to hopefully inspire them with my goals and expectations and my vision. And honestly, I thought I did a phenomenal job because Tina wanted to come in and talk about the class. And I thought, yes, I was making this incredibly strong connection. But Tina, you walked right in and you said to me, we are going to have a problem.
Well, being a military spouse and mother is the hardest job I've ever done. Having to pick up and move my life at the snap of a finger and act like it doesn't bother me while staying strong for my kids is so hard. Watching my daughter... Sorry. Watching my daughter have to say goodbye to friends just as she's starting to feel comfortable, and knowing the struggle she will have adjusting to a new atmosphere and new friends is heartbreaking. No mother ever wants to see their child suffer, and a military mom sees it much too often. Coming from Maryland, my daughter had already attended 3 other schools before coming to Hawaii. She has accepted the fact that we move every 3 or so years, but making new friends and saying goodbye just never gets easier. One experience from a prior school has changed my way of approaching my daughter's education. Lily had gone through an unfortunate experience where she was bullied by other students and teachers because of her race. This, of course, has made me an overprotective mother. It is hard enough having to be a mother and father figure every other year when my husband is deployed, but not knowing if your child is in a safe environment is unacceptable. I remember when I first found out Mr. Weiss was going to be Lily's third grade teacher. My first thoughts were, oh God, a guy. I wasn't sure how comfortable Lily would feel since this was the first time she had a male teacher. No lie, I was nervous. She was already very attached to her second grade teacher, who we both begged to move up to third grade. I wasn't sure how the year would go. On the first day of school, I took Lily to class and introduced myself. First thought was, young and cute. Not a good sign. I said goodbye to Lily, and as she went into class, he was greeting her and the rest of her students with a big high five. My reaction was, how encouraging. That's 5 points in my book. Lily enjoyed her first few days, and everything went well until she came home complaining of his classroom rules. I dismissed it until she brought one rule to my attention that I thought was a bit too much. He made them pay tickets to use the bathroom. The next day, I went into class after school and brought this to his attention. I'm pretty sure I came off as the scary mom, but he said he would adjust the rule, which made me happy. I knew then we were off to a good start. My way is always the right way.
Yeah.
Go ahead, baby.
On the first day of school, I was nervous, but Mr. Weiss greeted me with a big high five, which made me feel comfortable. I remember going over the long list of rules. There were a lot. I had set a goal for myself. It was to be able to slay the HSA monster by the end of the year. The HSA is a test for math and reading that we take 3 times a year. I knew it would be a difficult task. I also wanted to be able to get an 80% mastery or higher on all my tests. I didn't know most of the people in my class, so I was nervous that I was not going to make any friends. But on the first day, everyone was already my friend. If I ever needed help, Mr. Weiss would help me. I liked that he taught me stuff I didn't even know, and sometimes he made us review what we did. I also liked that everyone cared about me. I liked when Mr. Weiss took us to PE and the library. What I did not like about his class is that after recess, he would make us stand behind our chair and ask us questions. It's called hall calling. But we took care of that later in the year.
So as the year began in earnest, I was so excited to learn more about my many wonderful students, and I was especially thrilled to learn more about you, Lily, and hear about your dream of going to college and then someday opening your own veterinary clinic. Now, recently I was incredibly impressed with you when, during our exploration of the branches of government, you led the class congress as House Speaker to write and pass a law completely outlawing hot calling from all future math classes, which I know earned you great favor from your various classmates. Now, most of all, Lily, I am so incredibly impressed by your personal and your academic grit. Not once have I ever seen you give up in the classroom, at home, or on the track, and you are a complete and total role model for your peers, and you will be a role model for your little brother Ollie as well. And Tina, we found a way to work together too. Your way was the right way. And not only have you taken careful stewardship over Lily's education, but you lend your energy to the success of every child in my classroom by volunteering your time. Now, Lily was among 13 students who was able to pass the reading HSA on their first try, which I thought was really, truly inspiring. It was very, very exciting growth because only 8 of my students were reading on grade level when the year began. So I thought this was inspiring. But there actually was other trouble ahead too. The first time we took our math HSA, only 10% of my students were proficient. Now, honestly, I still don't know if this is because my students were low performing or if it was because of faulty internet wiring. Recently, the military has released a report on the infrastructure of its schools. In the state of Hawaii, Solomon Elementary School is at the very bottom. We are only ahead of one other school, Halikula Elementary, which is also on Schofield Barracks, also served by Teach for America. But the challenges my students face in an increasingly insular community go well beyond basic building maintenance. The specter of war looms large in our classroom, and bouts of crying over deployed, soon to be deployed, returning, and sometimes even injured parents are not uncommon. Furthermore, Schofield Barracks is the recipient of a disproportionate number of families that have children with exceptional needs. But for all these challenges that my students face, so many respond with equal parts resilience. And I'm reminded of this every single day. Whenever I hear an artillery drill and the building starts shaking, my instinct is to duck and cover. But these kids seem to sit up a little bit straighter, showing me just how tough they really are.
In the first weeks of school, the students set goals, and I set some of my own. Although she was already doing so well in math and reading, I wanted her to be ahead because I had heard the education in Hawaii was behind compared to the mainland. I brought this concern to Peter's attention, and he offered to set up an online program for Lily where he would challenge her mathematically, and he would monitor her as her coach. I was thrilled because no other teacher had gone out of their way to help my daughter educationally. I offered to volunteer in class and got a better idea of his teaching technique and realized I might have been a little harsh about the rules. He has high expectations of his students and goes above and beyond to help meet their goals. One rule he has, an 80% mastery. This means if the students do not pass with an 80% or better, then they have the chance to retake it. He's modeling that if you don't pass the first time, brush it off and try again. At home, we were preparing for a year-long deployment. I was fearful that this would affect her school grades. I spoke with Mr. Weiss well in advance about the upcoming deployment so he could keep an eye out for any odd behavior. My children are the reason I live and breathe, but my husband is the strength I need to get by every day. Having him leave for a year is an unbearable pain no person should ever feel. As the mother of two beautiful kids, I have to stay strong and act like nothing bothers me when all I really want to do is hide under the covers until my soulmate returns. But my kids have me and only me, so I will not let a deployment affect my daughter's education. I make sure we stay focused on her future. I have had many meetings with Mr. Weiss, and he has reassured me that Lily is doing well and above grade level in several subjects. She had already passed the HSA, achieving her end of the year goal, and we were still working with Mr. Weiss on preparing her educationally for the next move back to the mainland. I could tell my daughter was comfortable in his class, and I couldn't wait to see what she would accomplish in the rest of the year.
In the middle of the year, I was much more comfortable with everything. I told myself, Lily, you're halfway done with the year. You can do this. With all my high grades, I knew I would be able to move on to 4th grade. Mr. Weiss would make comments like, Lily can beat me in the multiplication table. At the end of the day, we do a chant. Mr. Weiss says,
Where are you headed?
We say, to college. He says,
Will you succeed?
We say, yes. And then he says,
And when you succeed, what will you do?
We respond, make history and impact others. On the first round of the HSA, I did pretty good. I achieved my goal of slaying the HSA monster. Now that I have achieved that goal, I want to continue to get an 80% mastery on all my tests. I'm excited to show my dad the progress I've made. He's in Afghanistan and I miss him, but I'm excited to see him when he visits this summer. When his deployment ends in January, I know I'll be kicking butt in 4th grade.
As I approach the end of my core experience, I find myself thinking more and more about why I came in the first place. And I ask myself, have I figured out what it takes to rewrite the equation of opportunity for students living in low-income communities? Well, the answer is no. But I'm convinced it's possible. I'm convinced it's possible by my student Ashley, who at the beginning of the year told me she thought that she would never even make it to 3rd grade, but who managed to muster the courage to grow more than 2 years in just one. And I'm convinced of the possibility by you, Lily, and how you have managed to overcome every challenge military life has presented you. And most of all, I'm convinced by you, Tina. You once told me the most incredible thing. You said to me that you were both thrilled and saddened to hear that Lily was so excited to go to college. You were thrilled because you knew that she would have the opportunity to go to any college she wanted, to do anything that she wanted to do. But you were sad because if she were to accomplish those dreams and know that you never finished your schooling, she would think you weren't the super mom that you are. But that Lily can go to college and do whatever she wants to do is because of all that you have provided for her and inspired her to accomplish. And for that, you too are a role model for your community. And perhaps most of all, I am convinced by all of you, my fellow corps members, teachers like Brian Bienenfeld, whose students mustered an eye-popping 350 on their Hawaii State assessment. Teachers like Mark McDonald, whose incredible students fused slam poetry and social justice to host a sold-out show in town. And teachers like Maggie Desmond, who took her Nanakuli students to California to record an oral history of their Leeward Coast experience. Some of those students leaving Hawaii for the very first time. Just this inspiration alone allows me to continue the fight now and as I transition to an alumnus of this organization. Teach for America has been one of the great treasures of my life, and I'm convinced now more than ever that the work that we do here is essential to making sure that all the children in Hawaii and across this country have a fair shot at life. So as I look forward to creating a new classroom next year, I will be incorporating everything that I've learned from my fellow corps members, and of course everything that I've learned from you, Lily, and from you, Tina. And because of that, I will continue to grow as an educator.
After a year in Mr. Weiss's class, I feel that I have improved a lot and that I am ready for 4th grade. Normally, you wouldn't see a 3rd grader learning long division. On my last HSA math test, I improved 74 points from the first time I took it. That was because Mr. Weiss helped me improve by playing math games in class and showing me how to use Khan Academy so I could practice at home. A strategy that helped me is in the morning I would class would sing, "You gotta read, baby, read. You gotta read, baby, read. You gotta read, baby, read." And that's how you succeed. Mr. Weiss also helped me set my goal on going to college. College is what Mr. Weiss talks about all day. He talks about all different colleges around the world. The two things I know are that I am going to a college and I will be successful because of Mr. Weiss's class.
One thing I've always admired about Mr. Weiss is the motivation he gives his students. Every day, while waiting for school to get out, I hear Mr. Weiss address his class by their college graduating year.
2025.
Party time!
That even motivates me. Lily comes home talking about graduating college and becoming a veterinarian. It is the best feeling knowing your child is excited about college. They have even discussed several colleges around the United States. My daughter would come home saying, "Mom, I'm going to Harvard." That's one thing I can only hope. One thing that motivated Lily was receiving tickets. Mr. Weiss would hand them out to students who worked hard on their work. She was saving up her tickets to trade them in for lunch with Mr. Weiss. I knew then that not only was Mr. Weiss her teacher, but he was a friend if she needed one. That's when I started nagging Mr. Weiss to move up to 4th grade. When you have someone who makes a difference in your child's life, you want to keep them there forever. Having a father that is in a combat zone for a year definitely puts a strain on a child. Out of the last 36 months, Lily's dad has been gone for 24 of them. But with Mr. Weiss's and my support, Lily has stayed strong and focused because she wants to make us all proud. Now that the year is coming to an end, I look back and see all the achievements Lily has accomplished. She's improved 74 points on her HSA, putting her well above not only the passing level, but the exceeding level too. She's more than ready for 4th grade, already doing long division and reading at a 5th grade level. I believe the education and support Mr. Weiss has given Lily has prepared her for 4th grade, every grade, and any school that she attends in her future.
So wonderful. Good job.
Thank you.